are going to be discussing from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, rule number 2. So the chapter in rule number 2 says, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Sueanne, and how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. So Dave, I was thinking I would start off our discussion today by reading a short couple of lines from rule 2.
Super.
And see where we go with our discussion. So let me just get myself set up here.
The librarian look.
You must determine where you are going so that you can bargain for yourself, so that you don't end up resentful, vengeful, and cruel. You have to articulate your own principles so that you can defend yourself against others taking inappropriate advantage of you, and so that you are secure and safe while you work and play.
Wonderful. That is a great statement. It's got contrast, and it's a beautiful quote to be able to explore one's relationship with themselves. We must remember the title of this book, The 12 Rules to Life, an antidote to chaos. And so I'm hearing in this, as I'm listening, that often our mind, the monkey mind, is chaotic. And so one of the ways to decide or develop a relationship with the monkey mind is to sometimes be wrong, or sometimes to be aggressive with oneself. And so this idea of treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping is a contrast, because quite often people are the hardest on themselves, which I have a feeling your quote sort of alludes to that. It's beating oneself up to a point where consciousness comes in and say, do I have to continue to beat myself up, or am I actually going to treat myself like I'm responsible for helping as opposed to beating up? And so that is what I gleaned from the quote and also from the chapter, Sueanne, and I gently pass it back to you. When you read that quote, maybe this time, was it any different than times that you had read it before, or were you simply reinforcing your first impression of that quote?
Actually, it is a little bit different in reading it today. And to sort of expand on what you had said, Dave, is it's asking me to like myself. And in liking myself, it means that I'm going to treat myself with more respect, more care, more love, and also find that place where I am comfortable with myself, to be comfortable in my own skin. So you mentioned about beating yourself up. And oftentimes when you're beating yourself up, that sort of negative self-talk leads to more negative self-talk. So the sentence also said, know where you're going. And so part of it is also having a sense of what is it that you are moving towards. And so I'm asking you, Dave, have you ever been in situations where you weren't always sure about what that direction was or is?
Well, I pick you up on the word, because the word I'm picking up is on, am I sure where I'm going? And I guess that's the humor that I find today, is that even with the best plans of knowing where you're going, often the universe has this way of mysteriously corrupting the GPS, so that you go on a journey that you can either be upset the whole time that you're not on perfect track, or actually finding the mysteries intriguing and exciting. And so life is like that. I feel that there's this journey that, yes, you can have an intention to finish a degree in 3 years. And some people finish it in 4 years. Some people finish it 5 years. Some people might take a lifetime to finish it. And then they have a choice that while they're not on that straight line towards their destination, they can be grumpy, they can be upset, they can be frustrated, or they can switch the button and really appreciate the journey. And so that's how I would hear that. Yes, I like to have a 5-year plan. When I was in my 20s, I used to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan. I read the book of Disney, and Disney has a 100-year plan. Yet the thing about a lot of these plans, and I think this is the metaphor that I'd love to share and get your feedback on, is that an airplane, when we leave Toronto and we go to Montreal, and the GPS calculates a direct line, what percentage of the time do you think it's actually on that straight line?
I have no idea.
Less than 1% of the time.
Hmm.
Life is not a straight line that you can only get there one way. It's a GPS. It's a calibration. And that's one of the inspirations for my book on Get 2020 Vision. It's about having a calibration system that works for you. And your calibration system, what I'm hearing is it's going to be a little bit of self-care, it's a little bit of kindness, and it's a little bit of mixing it with some love. That sounds like a really great calibration system for you. For somebody else, it might be totally different. It might be fun and adventure and mystery, and they write great mystery books. And so the books that are in us, the books that come out of us, perhaps we can use this also as a way, as a mechanism to live our inner glory in an external expression.
Well, I like to push a little bit on that.
Sure.
So you mentioned that, somebody might move towards fun and adventure. In order to move towards fun and adventure, you still have to have a sense of, yeah, I like myself. And that's why this is what I identify with. And I identify with doing things on the fly, or identify with doing things that really excite me. And so you're going to be looking for that adrenaline rush. And so I feel like the author here is asking us to look at and try to identify those things that prevents us from going down that path of the negative talk. And so what is that accountability that he's asking us to really take a look at?
The word here that I'm reading is ability to respond, responsible for helping. So I have a feeling that Jordan Peterson, being a psychiatrist and studying the light and the dark of humanity, the order and the growth and the security and the flexibility and the awareness that in the teenage years, for instance, people develop their self-talk from the way their parents talked, from the way their grandparents talked, from the way that their environment talked and communicated. And that he's inviting us to perhaps have a new way of having a communication, a discourse, a helping way, as opposed to a angry way, as a fearful way, as a self-denigrating way. And so that's such a key component of breaking down the words in the chapter. And this treatment that we're taught, and we're taught in a way that might not be the most uplifting and comforting and caring way, because it's in a vacuum that vacuum can also be very exhaustive and suffocating. And so there's beautiful words here, yet I really believe what we're doing here, what we're attempting to do here, is have a conversation where we're pretty clear we see it from totally different perspectives. Now there's similarities on being a parent, and there's similarities of some of our background, yet each of us, when we read it, and any of our listeners who hear it or read it, the first time you read it might seem different than the second time, which might be the third time it might be different. That's the mystery of our consciousness and our humanity and our compassion, perhaps shifting with a word, shifting with a belief, shifting with an event that might totally transform our life.
I just feel that it's a case of, yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of external things where you hear a lot of not so positive things. You know, as a child growing up, I did hear a lot of, excuse me, not so positive things. And yet within me, I still had a sense of self care. And sometimes it's not always obvious for most kids growing up because we don't always have the words as kids how to express that. But yet, through our actions, through the way we share with others, through the way we play with others, through the way we create things and share those things with others, that's also part of finding out a little bit about ourselves. And so, you know, in him saying to take responsibility for yourself, it is, I feel that not all, like, okay, for example, for myself, there was a period in which I, yes, I doubted a lot of the things that I did. And the one thing that I kept for myself that still kept me centered was my creativity. And that's what held me through some tough times as well. And so if you're in a position where you're not able to identify those things that help to keep you centered, what is the next step in trying to get to that place where you do start to like yourself?
Again, this is beautiful because it really is, from my perspective, it's different strokes for different folks. So what I'm hearing, what you just said, is creativity, expression, art, music, dance were ways for you to express and to recalibrate. And it was often recalibrating from a self-esteem and self-confidence perspective. Let's flip it 180. And we're talking about children who might be abused or children who might be suffering from low self-esteem, and perhaps even moving from some type of physical abuse where that then manifests itself into self-harm, potentially suicide. And so that's their calibration. And some of them will pivot from that and go into healthcare. They'll go into social services. They'll go into looking to make a difference as a way to heal. And so that is a little bit of the consideration here. And I'm going to read it once more and then get you to give some final last 1 or 2 points that really resonate with you. Rule 2, rules for life. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. What do you think, Sueanne?
I feel when I read that line and think about it, it's to find that divine spark within yourself. And when you find that spark, you're able to help yourself. And in helping yourself, you can help those around you.
Beautiful. And again, you triggered sort of put the oxygen mask on first. In this chapter, Jordan also goes into discipline. He goes into chaos versus order, divine masculine and divine feminine, and there's a flow. There's a calibration, and there's something that's truly magical when you distill it and find a way that this can assist you on your journey. I'll let you have the last word. I think you just summed it up beautifully, yet perhaps there's one extra distinction, word, or phrase that might serve.
The best way I can put it is find a way to continue to believe in yourself. And once you find that way, then you'll be able to start that process of treating yourself like you're someone that you're responsible for helping.
That's a wonderful close to this chapter. Thank you very much, Sueanne. You have an
Thank
absolute
you.
great day.